We so often mistake silence for shyness or worse, just plain awkwardness. But in today's explainer, we are completely reframing the psychology of quiet people. We're going to pull back the curtain and reveal a highly intentional, deeply observant style of communication that you might be totally missing.
You don't talk much. Look, if you are naturally quiet yourself, or if you know someone who is, I guarantee you hear this universal label all the time. And sure, on the surface, they might not be saying a whole lot, but the context behind that silence, well, that is entirely about what's happening beneath the surface.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, the myth of silence. See, the common belief out there is that quiet people are simply always quiet, and by extension, always awkward. But the psychological reality is so much more nuanced than that. Many people who seem totally silent in one setting can actually be wildly expressive, talkative, and honestly even loud in another. It turns out communication isn't just this static personality trait. It's heavily reliant on comfort, trust, and a genuine connection.
Which brings us right into Section 2, the power of environment.
We have all been to those exhausting networking events, right? The ones defined by forced conversations, fake energy, and people trying just a little too hard to be noticed. When a room's vibe feels off in any of these ways, quiet people don't try to match that chaotic energy. They naturally pull back. They absolutely refuse to force themselves to fit in just to avoid standing out. Instead, they choose to stay quiet and just observe. They aren't being awkward. They are being incredibly aware.
Let's dive deeper with Section 3, social filtering and safety. We actually see this awareness in action through something called social filtering. Think of it like a background app running in their brain. It's this automatic psychological process of evaluating exactly where to invest their words and their energy. It's not that they're ignoring anyone in the room. They are unconsciously running a rapid, highly sophisticated internal assessment.
Quiet individuals are constantly running through this internal checklist. They're asking themselves, is this conversation actually worth my energy? Do I genuinely feel comfortable here? Are these people being authentic with me? And if the answer to any of those is no, well, they instantly limit how much they say. It's honestly a brilliant conservation of resources. And this ties directly into psychological safety, which is that fundamental baseline feeling of being secure from judgment, rejection, or misunderstanding. People open up when they feel safe. It's that simple. If someone senses their words might be ignored or twisted, they'd much rather stay completely silent. It is absolutely not because they are weak. It's a powerful, calculated method of self-protection. Here's a really fascinating piece of the puzzle. A lot of quiet people actually used to talk a whole lot more. But over time, through being constantly interrupted, dismissed, or simply not taken seriously, they learned to be highly selective. Their current silence is very often a learned response to past negative experiences. They realized early on that not every space deserves their voice, so they adopted to protect it. Let's move on to Section 4, energy, observation, and authenticity. Quiet people are hypersensitive to their social battery. They intuitively know how interactions physically and mentally affect them, and they recognize draining, pointless, or negative conversations instantly. So rather than engaging just for the sake of making noise and rapidly depleting their energy, they choose energy conservation. They would far rather disengage and stay quiet than feel completely exhausted after a conversation that meant absolutely nothing. Think about what happens when they enter a new social environment. They don't immediately jump into the fray. First, they enter. Next, they watch the social dynamics, how people talk, how they treat each other, and only finally do they decide exactly how much of themselves to safely show. This proves that initial silence in a new room isn't hesitation. It is a very strategic effort to map the dynamics before participating. But this strategy comes with friction. Let's look at Section 5, the cost of misunderstandings. Because of this learned selection and very careful observation, people often make harsh assumptions. They assume quiet individuals are shy, unfriendly, or even aloof, like they think they're better than everyone else. But the reality is the exact opposite. They are simply seeking alignment and protecting their authenticity. But because they don't constantly explain themselves, others fill the gaps with wrong assumptions, entirely missing their deep desire for genuine connection. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, the weight of intentional words. To a quiet person, silence isn't awkward at all. It's totally normal. For them, connection is measured by how real it feels, not by how much is said. Quiet people are completely comfortable with pauses. They simply don't feel that overwhelming, anxious pressure to fill the air just to keep a conversation going.
When quiet people do choose to speak, it usually means something. When they actually talk, their words carry immense weight because they've already thought about it. They've run it through their social filter, they've assessed the energy in the room, and they've decided that what they are about to say is absolutely worth sharing with you. The wrong environments can silence even the most expressive. So the next time you encounter someone who doesn't talk much, ask yourself, are they truly a quiet person? Or are they just waiting for a safe space, the right people, and a genuine connection to finally be themselves?